Hey guys, welcome to Overcrest. I'm Jake.
And this is Jeff.
That's right. Yeah, Chris is not here this week because he's like dying of a cough. He claims he isn't sick. He just is coughing too much, which I don't know if he's just too proud to admit that he is sick.
No, you know what it is? California got him sick. It's California's fault.
That's right. He did say that.
Yeah, he told us it's the dust from California from being at Camp Overcrest last week. He claims that he ingested a lot of dust and therefore he is ill.
Which I think we all probably inhaled the exact same amount of dust, so I don't know what that excuse is. Anyways, that said, that's exactly what we wanted to talk about this week. We have been like head down busting ass for months, really, but especially the last couple of weeks before this when we were on the ground in Monterey, where we set up Camp Overcrest and Sportscar Vacationland, which was the antidote to Monterey Car Week. And I feel like, Jeff, we should kind of like zoom way out. I always like assuming like, oh, if someone's new to the podcast, let's start there, right? So like what was the vision for Sportscar Vacationland, and how would you kind of illustrate that?
Yeah, for those who've never been to Car Week, Monterey Car Week, it's every August in the middle of the month, or even those who maybe haven't been there for like 10 years or so. What's happened at Car Week over the last 10 plus years is things have become very untethered from the automotive enthusiast. For people who actually like driving cars, and people who tend to be into more of the enthusiast culture, what has happened is the caliber of car and the type of car that really gets featured and celebrated there has become extremely exclusive, extremely expensive, to the point where you see these events, things like the Quail being $1,500 plus to attend.
Just to attend, yeah.
Yeah, for a car show for a day. And they're at very nice golf courses. They're in very stunning environments. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but as a whole, Car Week has really kind of shifted and moved that way. You still have the historics at Laguna Seca, which is it's awesome. It's incredible. There are still a lot of really cool events around Car Week, but as we've noticed and noted now, things have maybe gone away to the more ritzy, exclusive, hypercar culture.
I think it's always been very like exclusive high end, because the one event that stands out that I like knew by name, years ago, was the Pebble Beach concours de elegance. And so that was kind of like one of the main anchor events of Monterey Car Week. And then it became kind of this mecca where like all of the big events in the automotive world take place out in Monterey during this week. And so it's always been kind of the highest of the high end, but I think it's, to your point, gotten out of hand where now it's like it's not accessible for normal people to go out there if you want to see this. Even if you do want to throw on, a sport coat and go kind of cosplay as a millionaire and just to kind of see and be around all this, which I don't think our type of person wants to do anyways, and yet you want to see Car Week and experience it because it's a cool experience. Yeah. And so that's what we set out to do, right? Was to make something A, more accessible, and B, really almost a reset or something aimed more at the everyman, the actual enthusiast.
Overcrest doesn't really do car shows. It's been like we've always said, we don't want to do car shows. That's not really our jam. And there's thousands of car shows you can go attend if you want to stare at cars. We're much more kind of linked to the driving of the cars, and that's what we've done at our events. So there's two big requests that we've always gotten. One is do something in California, please, so I don't have to leave, my state. And then the other request that we've gotten is do something that's accessible. And we hear that because, the rally has just grown in popularity so much that we are only able to allow in a fraction of those who apply. And I know that for you, Chris, Stephanie, we feel the pain every year when we have to say no to so many great people. And that sucks. So we wanted to do something that, hey, anyone can come to this. You can come hang out. You can come be with the Overcrest community for most of the week, which you can talk about that, Jake. But we created that, and this was year one, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was awesome. It really what I loved, and I think this was, I mean, this was obviously your kind of your your silo or your area to manage, was the artist side of things and the creative, and how it really was a celebration of, okay, if we're going to do quote unquote a car show, it has to be Overcrest. It has to be something that's more dynamic and interesting. And a lot of that is, bringing in some of these creators and artists. And we could maybe kind of go down the line and just talk about what was there, because I think some of it was so cool. And you've probably seen, everyone listening has seen on social media some of these things, but maybe it's more interesting to talk about how they came about, or kind of the
Yeah,
behind the scenes. Um,
yeah.
I don't know where we even start, but
For those on the outside looking in and wondering what it was, we were at a working winery, which people hear winery and they think bougie Northern
right.
California wine. This was more of like a farm. Think of it like a working farm. It was dusty. It was a little bit dirty at times. We more or less took over a lot of buildings that were being used with tractors and storage and whatnot. And so this space was outside of Car Week by what, an hour or so up in the
Yeah,
hills.
depending on, the traffic. And so it that's very on brand for us. I think it was by design that it took a little bit of sacrifice to get there. And guess what? The drive there was amazing. Everyone that came out was like, "Oh my god, these roads out here." Like, I didn't know it was going to be a rally to get out here.
Yeah, it's funny talking to Jeff Swart. He was like, he's like, I put the pin on the Maps app to drive out there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take me so long. And then he's like, and then when I turned up Kashawa Road, and he's like, I got 3 minutes in the twisties. He said, oh, I see what they're doing here,
Yep,
and he had a
exactly.
great drive up. So yeah, part of it was we asked people to pay a little bit of a price to get up there. They're gonna have to do some driving. It's spirited road with some twisties, and you had to get a little bit of the Overcrest experience.
Yeah, 100%. And then as you came in the gates, we had, well, the first thing I guess you're going to see are hay bales. And I'm trying to think back to whose idea this was. I think I need to blame you,
Yeah,
because we
I'll
wanted
take
to do
it.
something to tie the event together. And, the more like the juxtaposition of having a cool car and then having it anchored by something that is more, I don't know, natural. And so hay bales was a really cool idea to have a set piece background. And that was
Yeah,
going to tie all these other components together in the show.
yep. Well, hay bales are this really interesting intersection between motorsport and rural life. And so you've got, this is where the idea came from, really, was the idea that you've seen in the Goodwood and all the old rally footage and whatnot, people use hay bales as barriers in motorsport and lots of racing, different kinds of it. But then, Overcrest is really about getting out in the middle of nowhere. It's about exploring off the beaten path. And, invariably where we go, there's lots of farms, there's lots of rural life. And so hay bales kind of became this really cool cross between the two worlds that we used to use as a brand element. And so with that, we thought it'd be a great idea. Let's bring in a bunch of hay bales. And so we ordered 600 of them.
Yeah.
And they turned out to be a little heavier than we thought.
It was
Yeah.
literally a full semi truck load full of hay bales. And the property was, so remote down this awesome road that they couldn't bring an 18 wheeler down there. So they had, I think it was 8 trips where they had to unload the semi truck onto smaller, like, delivery trucks and bring them in one by one. And so 600 hay bales that weighed, I don't know what they even weighed, 80 pounds a piece, maybe. It
Yeah, about
was
70 to 90 pounds each hay bale.
it was a Herculean backbreaking effort to get all these in place. Um,
We
yeah,
we were lucky that we had, Ian and Chase and Ben and people on our team that just kind of stepped up and said, I'll do that. And they lifted a lot of hay
Shout
bales.
out to the Bale Boys.
The Bale Boys. Yeah. So we moved, that's maybe a little bit behind the scenes, but when people arrived, you saw a large hay bale, lots of sets of hay bale walls with signage on it. And it really set the scene and the tone and kind of framed the entire show. Was having hay bales and cars, and then of course artists and art
Yeah.
exhibits.
And so I think, w- for lack of a way to structure talking about all this, I like the idea of just kind of walking through it and maybe talking about a little bit of, when you go through a museum, you can like buy extra. You get the little earpiece and you'll hear about the exhibit, as you go through. That's what I want this to be. Okay, so
Sure.
you can think back and you're going through it. So did you know that there were over 600 hay bales delivered to the property? But as you come through this and you saw what you called the chicane, so after the big hay bale
Mm-hmm.
wall where you literally had, these hay bales to kind of make it a sort of motorsport chicane, which is really cool. And then you saw some of our branding. And I don't know why we do this. It is extremely cool, but it's always every time I'm like, that was it. We literally hand paint. I say we, it's mostly 100% you. We hand paint buildings. This is not vinyl. This is not washable paint. This is permanent paint that you painstakingly hand paint multiple murals and brand everything. And then literally the day after the event, we paint it over.
Yeah, I have all the photos and the calluses to prove it. So this is a little bit behind the scenes for folks. We showed up Sunday. Before the show was on Thursday. We showed up Sunday, and I think all of us, Jake, we felt the like clock ticking. It was like
100%.
show up, get to work. So the first night, I penciled out all. We had 3 large scale murals on the side of these barns and buildings. I penciled till about 1 a.m. The first night, just mapping everything out with Chase, and you helped a little bit, and we got that done. The second day, I got up at 6:30 a.m. and started painting, and I took a little bit of a lunch break, but pretty much painted till 11 p.m. That day. It was a lot of black paint, and you know invariably you take something like that on, and you're in hour 1 and hour 2 going, how is this ever going to happen? Like, I
Yeah.
I don't know if we can actually do this. And then when it's all said and done and people show up, every time we go, that was totally worth it. It was so cool. It was so unique. And so, do I want to do it again? Again? No, but it was so great to have, and I know a lot of
so
people have seen it.
cool. But it is interesting, and I think what makes it special, it is just a moment in time. Because what's painful for me is the next day literally taking a roller and painting right over it. Like nothing,
Yeah,
like it never happened. Like it was never
we
there.
5 gallons
And
of weight paint, and we painted all back to normal. Yep.
it's crazy that we've done that. So we had the big murals, one of which was our wheel museum, which was a really cool exhibit, partnered with Wheel Price and had a lot of other cool people, awesome people helping with that to build that entire
Yeah.
room out. That was okay. Here's a little behind the scenes. When you walk through the Wheel Price Wheel Museum at Sportscar Vacationland, what you were walking through was a horse stable that when we arrived was full to the brim as a wood storage shed.
Yeah.
Like hundreds of boards.
We had
That-
we had like 15 to 20 friends help us clear it out, and we did it in under an hour. We cleared the
it was
entire
like
thing
a
out.
swarm of activity and people that just came and grabbed a few 2x4s and moved them. And it was amazing how
Yeah.
quickly we were able to get that place cleaned out.
You and Jason Larson did a ton of work, and then Pele as well on the Wheel Museum, and it turned out awesome. And I think you should just describe people, what went into that and what it was.
Yeah. So what the vision here was to have, and I realized what was it? It's not a museum. It should be called a gallery.
Yes.
But museum sounds cooler. But it was a gallery because it was not like the best or most influential wheels of all time. What we had was, I think, 15 wheels that were selected just as being like cross sections of automotive culture, motorsport, just to kind of shine a light on like, look at all these kind of different, cool, unique facets of things. And a wheel is like a literal perfect representation of automotive culture because it's literally what the car moves on, and B, it is so distinctive and so expressive, right? It's the first thing you
Yeah.
customize as a car guy. You know, get different wheels for it. So
Yeah.
we had to figure out, we had some awesome partners and friends that, lent us these wheels to use. One of which was a Formula One wheel off of a Honda race team from like circa 2001 or something.
As a
Another one was,
Benetton car, yeah.
that's what it was. Thank you. And, then we had Ken Block's Gymkhana 6, the vehicle that was in that video, one of the wheels from that car. We had, I think it was Richard Petty's Daytona 500 winning,
Yeah.
what was that? That would have been the Chevy. We had that wheel there. So first of all, I say all this to think, okay, hold on, I gotta make these secure somehow. Like, we can't just set them in a room and like people can like walk out with a wheel and be like, what happened to that? Oh, sorry, partner that lent us this and trusted us with this. So I ended up fabricating, making, researching. There was a couple that I found. Actually, I was about to make like these mounts for wheels, but I wanted it to spin. And so I was going all out and like I had all my welding rig ready and how I was going to bolt these together. And I looked online and I was like, oh yeah, you can get these from China, Alibaba. And there was only like a handful. So we had the Dayton 300 spoke, just like your classic, lowrider, just the iconic wheel of that whole scene. The Dayton 300 spoke with the center knockoff. So we had that on a spinning rig, which is such a cool wheel. Actually, I've never like really worked with one, and how it all mounts together and the
They're
bracketry.
awesome.
That was cool. And then we also had these faced brackets for a lot of those other wheels. Um, we had the Wu-Tang wheel, which was news
Mm.
to me, I think, before we had sourced this and discussed this. So the Wu-Tang Clan, of course, apparently had a like a joint, I don't know what you'd call it, some collab with Raceline Wheels in like
Yeah.
1999, 98, something like that. And there was only 2 sets of these wheels ever created. And
Mhm.
so we got one of them from, I think, Raceline's
Yeah,
like
Raceline
factory,
provided
like,
wheel price with it.
and
And we should
so
also say, like, super huge thanks to Wheel Price for sourcing so many of these wheels.
yeah,
And they make
yep,
Wheel Price is a really cool group of guys, and they've got an awesome site. But they sourced a lot of these, and yeah, some of it was right from the source. BBS sent us 3 of their kind of iconic wheels, brand
yep.
new.
We had a
You
BBS
know,
RS01, we had a
mhm,
BBS E88, which is an awesome motorsport wheel, and then we had a LMR, I believe,
yes.
as
Yeah,
well.
a
So
couple
that
of
was cool.
superstar wheels. Like, there's just a
Dude,
lot of really cool stuff.
yeah, some really, really rare JDM stuff that was like, that's not even my scene, but I was like, oh wow, these are bizarre and really cool.
Yeah.
And so it was awesome having that, and it was literally in a horse barn. So we had hay on the floor. Again, just kind of that juxtaposition of like, motorsport, automotive design, really shiny elements in this
Mhm.
kind of very agricultural setting, which was the vibe.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
was super cool. Ton of work went into that. Hopefully people enjoyed seeing that.
On
Um,
the in the same structure, but it was, it had to enter on a different side, was the full barn. And that barn was one of our largest kind of visible structures at the show. uh, we partnered with the guys from Group Chat in Austin, um, Jim Bauer, Keith, and Jed Rogers, and Aaron Ross. They sent their first kind of roadshow version of Manual Focus, which is an art show where they feature, prominent automotive art. They sell art. They auction it at their show, but they wanted to do a road show, and it was a perfect opportunity for them to kind of bring a cross section of what they do into Sports Car Vacationland. And they transformed the inside of this barn into just a really cool space. And they had, everything from, prints from Sid, your friend Sid, and, sculpture piece from Ornamental Conifer, and just all kinds of really, really cool stuff, both for sale and just to look at. They brought in a barn find 911 that was non-running, and
I
parked
heard
it in
that
there.
was Jim's. What was it? What did he say? There was some story behind that car. Did you talk to him about that?
Yeah, it was the first 911 he ever drove.
That's
And
what it was.
so, long story short, is it's coming back to him to restore.
That's cool.
It was a friend's, and so it's coming back to him to restore. But they brought it to the show and parked it in the gallery, and it created for a really cool moment. So yeah, those guys knocked it out of the park. I mean,
Yep.
as far as like just being able to give them really the inside of one of our best structures on the property, they did a great
And they
job.
just
It was
ran
super
with
cool.
it and showed up right, and it was awesome what they did. Put in a
I
ton of
should
work.
I should say too, if you're interested in manual focus, they've got their next show in Austin on
That's
the
right.
6th and 7th of February. Definitely worth checking out. Word is Overcrest might have something at the show, so worth
Oh
checking out.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And then in the center of kind of that main area, the square, there was a 911 that was being painted by the artist Felix Holst. Uh, but it was suspended in midair by its nose, literally hanging vertically in midair. And that was a
Jake,
massive undertaking.
there is so much credit that goes to Jake Solberg for this happening. And everything from like getting the fluids out of the car
Yeah,
to, getting it rigged up. Felix had a team of people in LA build like a rig.
right.
These are actual Hollywood rigging specialists that made it for the car. But then it was on you and Felix really to get it on the car and get the car in the air.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like kind of the quick recap, there's a really cool video on Instagram. But basically, the story is, we reached out to Felix and we said, we're going to do this thing. What do you want to do? And so he said he always had this idea of painting an art car, but doing it in a way that was literally gravity would drip the paint down as if it looked like speed lines. And so how you do that is you literally have to paint the car vertically in the air and drip paint down it. And so we were like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. And so he went out to uh it was a stunt car like rigging specialist. It's the guys that do like all the stunt movie cars. And so he told him the vision, and what they were able to do was basically make these reinforcement brackets that are able to safely lift a 911 up from the front subframe, excuse me. But then the other problem we were trying to figure out, because I was on the phone with him this whole time kind of planning this, and you were too, is like, okay, sure, you can start lifting from the nose, but all that's going to do is, crunch the ass end as soon as it gets the wheels off the ground. So
Yeah.
then they built this whole other kind of like structure that extended beyond the rear subframe and gave it a position to lift off of.
Mm.
Cool, all well and good. They tested it once, it worked. And then it was basically, okay, now, bring the car out. And everyone, first of all, I would have to say, assumed like, oh, so is that just like a bare shell? Like, did you put it together for this? It's like, dude, no, he drove it into place. Like, this was a driving
Yes.
912. And so, first things first, you drain all the fluids out of it so that when it's hanging, it's not leaking all over. And then you have to figure out, how do you safely lift this thing? And I was the one that secured the rental telehandler or crane. And knowing that I'm also the one that secured our insurance policy for the event, I go, well, I'm not. And this was literally my thinking, because I was like, okay, in hindsight, I should not have been the one liable for this. But also, I don't know who else I would want to have liable to do
Right.
this. So it
Right.
was on me that was probably one of the sketchiest things I've done, is lift a
Also,
Porsche with a
also,
crane.
again, I don't mean to sound too much like a corporate shill, but thank you, Mobile One, for helping us rent that crane.
Yes, 100%.
Because we learned through this process, it is not cheap to hang a car in the air, and
No.
it took some serious equipment. And I think watching you, first of all, just get the fluids out, get the car up in the air.
What's I will say what's great about having a big telehandler with big forks is that if you don't have a lift around, you can literally just lift the car up, and now you have a hoist to work under. So that was great.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So you did get the right equipment, but Jake acquired this telehandler, which then was able to put the car in the air, nose up vertically, perfectly vertically. And after taping the car, I mean, it. I agree. Like, people assumed that it was just a shell or
Mhm.
whatnot, But then when Felix actually put it in the air, it had wheels on it. It had the interior in it. I mean, it was all there.
It was
And for
we
anybody
literally
with
just
eyes, yeah,
yeah.
you could see it all.
Yeah, like, literally, we just took the car that drove there and hung it up. Like, it's not a big, it's not a sculpture. It is a
Yeah.
car.
And
So,
and Felix's work turned out awesome. I mean, like the spectacle of him painting that in the middle of kind of like the entire show was
yeah.
so cool. And he had a really cool vision for what he wanted to be, and he nailed it. I mean, it was so fun to stand around and just watch it happen.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. A, because I had such, a hand in kind of prepping everything, and also just because it was such a cool exhibit. Like, it was just a spectacle, right? And
Yep.
having this live painting of it that I think you're probably gonna see around quite a bit because it is such an iconic, cool thing and the story behind it.
Yeah, it
So
is
that was
cool.
awesome. We also had,
We
gosh,
had
we
an
had so
artist
much
paddock.
else going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the
We had
entire
an
artist
artist
paddock.
paddock with 8 different bays and different artists in each bay doing something unique. Um, Bailey Clayton hand painting a Porsche and then also hand painting an old truck. Um, we had uh, the artist from Oslo, actually. His name's James Martin. He
Yes.
goes by Studio Cartoons Deluxe. He partnered with FCP, and we had an entire stack of old CRT TVs with his animations playing on it. And it just was like, for a
That was
static
so cool.
display, it was so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, so big thanks to FCP for that. They're also, as you know, a sponsor of the podcast, and so I'll take a minute here. FCP Euro, they are, of course, an online retailer of OE, OEM, genuine aftermarket, and performance parts for European cars. From BMW to Porsche, Volvo, Audi, Volkswagen, and more, their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products with expert assembled kits that make shopping simpler. You don't have to guess with the process. You don't have to wonder if you need also a gasket with, that oil change kit, or if the bolts are stretch bolts that you need to replace. You just buy the kit, makes it handy. Plus, they have that lifetime replacement guarantee on every single product they sell, including wiper blades, brake pads, oil filters, wear items. Literally, you can send it back because they just stand behind and ask no questions when it comes to replacements and returns. With their opening of their distribution center in Mesa, Arizona, FCP Euro is also shipping parts from both coasts, which means you can get your parts in 3 days or less with free shipping. So FCP Euro, awesome partner. They do awesome stuff. Check them out. They're passionate about the real cars and the people behind them. FCPEuro.com.
Yeah, so next to FCP Euro, we had some other really cool things. Jason Whipple from Alterman came and suspended a 3-piece wheel in air using lines, so it looked like almost a 3D
You've seen like the
render.
exploded views of like a
Yes,
diagram or like and
but
that
this
was
was
what it,
real.
right. And it was really cool. I loved that.
Yeah,
And
he
so,
he he did a great job. It's super cool.
yep, we had, gosh, how many of those bays were there? I love, so the building is basically an open sided, they called it the tractor barn. The owner of the property, Greg, called it the tractor barn. And originally the vision was like, it looks like a race paddock, right? Because it's
From
all these
Goodwood.
open bays.
Yes,
Yes. And so we
yes,
are like, well, this is the artist paddock. And now, as we were leaving, he kept referring to that space, not as the tractor barn, but as the paddock. So I
yes.
love
We
that
got the
we
owner
left
to
our
start
mark.
calling his own building the paddock, which it does. It looks like one of those paddocks from Goodwood, except
Yeah.
rather than pavement, it's got some concrete, but then right outside it's got the dirt.
Yeah.
So it's again kind of that mix of like motorsport with rural. It just organically happened in the space. And we had, in fact, one of my favorite like rural with motorsport was 911 Outlaw was there. Joel came all the
Yeah.
way from
Austria.
Austria and camped with us and was such a good sport. He had a really cool exhibit. Joel makes, handmade shift knobs and mirrors and all kinds of accessories for cars. But Greg wasn't able to move the old tractor that was
There
in
was an
his
old,
bay.
I think it was an Alice Chalmers C, if I remember correctly, narrow axle.
Yep.
And it came with the property. and it was not running, and he was like, it's gonna be too much work to move. It's big. Like, right, you can't
Yeah.
move it. We're like, that's cool, because Joel flew over here. He can't bring a huge exhibit. We'll see if he can make it into his space. Like, we'll just use it. And
Oh, he
I
did.
remember going over there when he was setting up. I was like, dude, this looks really cool what you did here. And he goes, yeah, the one thing here, this is what I'm known for, my terrible accents. Yes, it is. But Jake, the one thing is, I wish the tractor here, it has a shifter. And if I could remove the shift knob and get it to fit, that would be amazing. But I tried it, it's too hard. And so I see, that was good, wasn't it? So I found a pipe wrench, and I was able to get the shifter off of the tractor, and then he was
Yes.
able to put one of them on there. So it perfectly fit, now that like it's an Easter egg of like, wait a minute, the tractor even has one of these knobs on it.
Yeah, his was a cool booth. We also had Chris Runge in there and Joshy Robots. Joshy had a really cool
Dude,
exhibit. I mean, he put so much work into that booth, and for the people, who don't know the behind the scenes of how that actually happened, Josh worked on basically building almost like a sim rig, except he
right.
built it all by hand, welded it, and he's got a really cool new product coming out. Without like pimping his product too much, it's basically a sweatshirt that can be removed while you're driving without having to pull it over your head. And so he had a stop clock where people could, put on one of the demos of the sweatshirt and time how fast people could get out of the sweatshirt. Just super cool interactive exhibit. And
Yeah.
then, you had Chris Runge next to him. I mean,
Brought
just
an entire English wheel, showed metal
yeah,
shaping. He brought the entire aluminum buck for one of his cars. Like, such a cool exhibit.
yeah. Chris
And
is a good
brought one of his
dude, and
cars.
yeah, yeah, he's a really good dude, and just grateful he came out. Um, right next to that, Carrera Books set up
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a little living room with
It was like a
hay bales, of
lounge,
course.
or yeah, it was
Yeah,
like an outdoor lounge. I don't know. There was like a carpet, and there was chairs and a lamp, but it was great. It was almost like a
yeah,
little library or a reading nook.
yep,
And you obviously had a hand in this, Jeff, but they put together the Sportscar Vacationland coloring book, which is
yeah.
so cool.
I've got one in my hand here, and yeah, they took a lot of our artwork that we've used, and they turned it into black and white for coloring, and then they they even made Sports Car Vacation Line crayons and
I
had
saw
a
that. When I opened, I was like, wait, these are
yeah.
even branded?
Yes, it
Super
was
cool.
cool. So huge shout out to Carrera Books. They brought their A game. And I think that's like overall, there's a lot of artists. The biggest thing that I took away is people really got creative and people
Yeah.
really brought a lot of their own ideas and energy, and just I was just blown away by people really embracing the idea of doing something different and showing off their creativity. And that's what made the event, Jake, is like you and I and Chris and Stephanie and our team. We only have so much we can do. We can paint buildings,
Mhm.
we can create the spaces, but it's people coming in and adding their flavor that made it so kind of unique and special.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, right outside the paddock there, the artist paddock, was the guys from 944 Driver, and I loved this. They also wanted to do their own version of like an art car. And so they had one of their 944 turbos that was like safari build, that they wrapped entirely in white. It was just completely white vinyl wrap. And then they set up a paint booth and had people paint it. This was interactive, with super soakers full of paint,
Yep.
which
It
was
was
such a rad, cool thing to see.
It was so rad. So you could walk up to the booth. They had three different colors in each in a different super soaker. So you could grab the color you wanted. You had to stand in kind of an area they wanted to shoot from, but they had built a paint booth and you could shoot the car wherever you wanted. And it was fun. Then the next morning, they still had it out there. Everything was drying, getting up and just seeing, you can look up 944 driver and see the cars all over the internet now, but it just super, super cool concept, and it fit
Yeah.
their brand, but it just also gave people like opportunity to be creative on their own and have some input into their thing.
100%. Yeah, super cool. I'm feeling like we're forgetting people too, which I don't want to do. This is not a fully, inclusive or
Yeah,
exclusive list. Like
yeah.
Project Cars Anonymous, Michael Gideon, his new brand and brainchild was super fun. I wasn't there when he did uh the
Oh, his
big
meeting?
meeting. I was
Yeah.
not there for the meeting.
I think that was probably the most people, other than the film event, which we'll talk about at the end with Petrolicious, the most people in one spot is when Michael in one of the artist paddock bays held the first Project Cars
Cars
Anonymous like
Anonymous
meeting.
meeting.
And Jake, what was so cool about it is it was like, I think people maybe expected it to be scripted. It
Yeah.
wasn't even scripted. It was just guys
It
kind
was
of pouring out their hearts about their project cars and all of the, the cars that got piled up in their backyard and their garage. And it was like a true
it was
self-help meeting.
literally a group therapy meeting. Like it was meant to
And
be kind of tongue in cheek, but it is a thing.
yes, and Michael, give him a lot of credit. He prepared. He really did a great job of just keeping it hilarious. I mean, the amount of like times where laughter was breaking out and big roars. It was, I've been to a few golf tournaments and you hear the roars break out when, somebody sinks a big putt a couple
Yep.
holes over. It was like that. Like every now and then you just hear this big roar of people laughing, and it was the meeting. So awesome job by Michael. Um, there was also other just like random weird fun things happening. Steve Pelletier, Donuts and Drip, like poured I don't know how many thousands of dollars into making this little go-kart. Um,
It was a
like a
go-kart with a vintage van body on it, which is
yes.
so cool. And then he went all out on this thing,
Yeah.
and
So
it's
he was
amazing.
puttering around, and Sid, your friend Sid, did one of her art car like installation flowers on a 90s Diablo, a rare spec color. There was just like all kinds of things to like find and discover. And I think it's what we set out, what we wanted to happen was just this special antidote to Car Week where you could go and see people expressing themselves in different ways and see things you wouldn't otherwise see. A lot of the artist community came out, a lot of creatives were there, and it just created almost like a breath of fresh air. At least that's what we were told. We're biased, but it just was a breath of fresh air. And I'm just so proud and excited of all the artists that came out and all the car people that kind of injected their own spirit and their own flavor into it. Even people like Pickle, um, doing
That's right.
he did an art car for one of the cars that was just on display. Like, just so cool.
Yeah.
Couldn't be
There
more
was
pumped.
there was so much to kind of discover, and that was all by design. Speaking of discovering, Jeff, not a sponsor of Sports Car Vacationland, but certainly a sponsor of the Overcrest podcast. OnX Off Road has your app for your next adventure. If you're looking to discover trails, 750,000 miles of them, comprehensive offline maps. You can explore worrying about cell service because it is offline. The app features trail ratings, detailed information, and a discover tool to help you find trails near you. It includes public and private land boundaries, so you always know where you can legally off-road, camp, and explore, and features cell service layers, so you can plan your route without leaving service. It also has wildfire layers. You can help avoid active fires, smoky areas, and has also a whole suite of tools like the route builder, waypoint marking, real-time updates, route sharing. You'd be fully equipped for any adventure. Try it for free for 7 days and hit the trails with confidence. Download OnX Off-Road today.
Well,
Yeah, we had, I don't know, we had a whole food vendor area. We had Garage 79 was up there pouring some drinks. We had actually our host, the winery,
yeah,
Tiernanza, was
and
up there pouring wine.
CSF and AC Solutions brought
That was the
they
biggest
had
hit.
an ice cream supplier. The thing too is, Jake, it was not like cheap mail it in ice cream. It was like
No. So
really
I don't know
good.
if it was like Italian. I forget. The guy had some big spiel about it, but it's basically like you take ice cream. This wasn't soft serve. It was like ice cream out of the cooler, and then he has fresh fruit And so you pick your fruit combos, and then it all goes into this like cone shaped thing that it spins it together and makes it a soft serve with the fruit and pours out. It was really cool. Like, it was cool to watch him do it as much as it was to eat it. And it was awesome. Super
Yeah,
cool.
it was cool. And AC Solutions and CSF, cooled
They
people
had like
off. You get it.
really cool, yeah, exactly. But like, they attention to detail, there was the branding on all of the cups and the napkins. It was really neat. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool, Jeff. Cool. It
Uh-huh.
was.
Uh-huh. Well, the end of the night, as things kind of transitioned, because when we started at like 4 p.m., it was sunny and bright, and then as the sun started to go down, that's when we transitioned things to the auto cinema event from Petrolicious. They partnered with us to build out a theater in the middle of a field on this property, and I, you know, it, we knew it was going to be really cool, Jake, but the actual like setting of it and how beautiful it was kind of far beyond anything I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the photos that people were able to capture too was so cool. Just that environment, being down in a valley with sunset and having everyone down on hay bales down in the field watching the film together. It was a super cool kind of magical experience.
It it was, and really really cool production by Petrolicious. They put together a lot of films, and there was some other surprises and different films that were inserted in there as well. That just it was such a cool
Yep.
night and
It was
a
really
great way
cool.
to kind of wind things down.
Yep, we had, Kindred Motors, who were on the podcast a couple episodes ago. They brought a few of their Broncos out, which is super cool to see, and it was just really cool vibes. I think I'm so gracious to everyone that came out and helped make it happen. Not only our partners, but so many volunteers and our
Yeah,
community that just showed
a
up.
ton.
It
The
was
Overcrest community showed up, and I think
yeah,
we're always reminded by at least I am, just how generous and giving of people's time, their own time they are, to come across the country. A lot of these people drove, from all over the country, and then they showed up, and then they baled hay bales, or they
yeah,
they helped to unload wood or whatnot, and it kind of regrounds, when you do a big event and you maybe bite off a little more than you can chew. It reminds you just how awesome the Overcrest community is and just how many good people there are in it, and they do things for the right reasons.
yeah, 100%. And that's why, um, as an aside to the entire Sportscar Vacationland event, we had kind of a home base, home away from home for a lot of our community, and especially a lot of the vendors and other people that helped make it happen, which was, Camp Overcrest, which is on the other side of the property. And, that was kind of a whole magical environment in its own. Like, we put up all the lights and just seeing everyone kind of be able to come back together and hang out at the end of the night. And we had, of course, the Nokian Tires tire swing, which I think was such a cool idea that we hung this massive tire. It was, I think, the Nokian's biggest outpost all terrain
Yeah, it was their
tire that you
biggest.
can
Yep.
get. And so it was this awesome tire swing that we had out there. Nokian, of course, a sponsor of the podcast as well. So I'll give them a little shout here. They have, of course, not only that Outpost AT, which I had that tire on my Cayenne, which I really liked, but of course they have their Surpass ASO1, which is their high performance all season tire. So it's specifically made for drivers like us who want the most out of their car without worrying if it's going to rain or if you happen to maybe come across some icy roads. So it lets you kind of just keep going on your adventure and also get the most out of your performance tire. So not only does it come with a 55,000-mile warranty, it also offers Nokian Tires pothole protection. If you happen to get damage to your tire beyond repair, Nokian will replace it for free. So check it out, nokiantires.com/surpass.
Yeah, the camp was awesome. Camp Overcrest was our, it was a 1.0, and we definitely had our challenges. People were really good
We
sports. The setting
that's
was beautiful. Like the
It was
property
it
was
was super
amazing.
cool. Yeah, there was 2 snafus that I guess is worth talking about. Tongue in cheek, I hopefully we they say comedy is, trauma plus time, right? And so hopefully enough time has passed here to make this comedic, but we we thought we were going all out and making like all of the, you know, all the comforts of home that you would need with hot showers on site and full restroom, like indoor restrooms. We're not talking porta potties. We're talking these high end trailers that we paid, a premium for to get out there that you can have a
Yes.
full setup. And it was great until it wasn't because they kept breaking and there was no hot water. And we had the vendor out there every single day trying to troubleshoot it, and there was a lot of frustration and angst behind the scenes. And to people's credit, I didn't hear a whole lot of bitching and moaning and complaining. It was just kind of adversity that, hopefully people bonded over around, you know
It, yeah, it was not ideal, and I think
no.
the people that were there knew we were not stoked about it, and we were constantly kind of battling with both the company that we paid a lot of money to
Right.
make this
And then I
happen.
I basically went in
Yeah.
there once we were finally done with Sportscar Vacation on the show. I was able to then dedicate my time to troubleshooting their own trailers and hot water setups, and it was just a hopefully
So
comedy of errors at this point. Um,
those
that
who survived,
and
yeah, yeah.
that and Jeff, you did not fall victim, but I keep hearing of more and more victims of the poison oak.
Oh
Dude,
yeah.
my legs are destroyed and I'm still itching and putting on like
I'm still
creams.
itching. No, I'm
You
still
you got it
itching.
too?
I've got it on my. I had a little bit all over in my chest. I had a little bit. I don't know how it got there,
It's
but
because you anything on your hands, it spreads.
yes, it
So
spreads. Yeah,
I made the mistake of parking the van in a bush of poison oak. Is
yeah.
I think probably where the majority of it
Well,
came from.
Jake, you and I, we come from, we're in Minnesota, which is poison ivy country,
Correct.
not
Yes.
poison oak. And so
Yeah.
I'm very good at spotting poison ivy,
Yep.
but I didn't even
I
think
didn't
twice. And
know. I was like, it's a
we had been
bush.
there
Whatever. Yeah.
2 or 3 days, and I I Nevin Pontius was there camping. And as Nevin is, he's just a colorful character. He
Yep.
was, walking out into some bush to go pee, and another kind of an older, maybe more wiser gentleman at camp just said, "I think that's poison oak." He mentioned that to me, and that was my first time that I heard those words, and I thought, and I looked it up,
Oh.
and we were surrounded by it.
Oh,
Um,
so much of it.
li-
And you're right.
and,
I would like to use the excuse that it's not native here. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I think we do have it here, but
Anyway, us gumshoes from Minnesota got some poison oak, and we're still dealing with it. But you
yeah,
know, all things considered, bathroom showers and poison oak, it was a lot of fun, and people were really good sports. And we certainly didn't make money on any of the camping venture, but it provided a really cool place for people to be. And the
yeah.
evenings, we had string lights and we had a very good vibe, and it was just awesome just to hang out with people. Like,
That's exactly. That's what made it so
that's
special.
you just don't get that much time where it's like, hey,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
got 2 or 3 hours. Let's just hang out.
Not only that, Jeff, we didn't have cell service on property. Like if it was maybe if you had T-Mobile, you had like one bar some
Yeah.
places. And so and we didn't like that's not necessarily a good thing. Like we thought it was going to be a big detriment to people, which it probably was. But thinking back, you sat around, it felt like the 90s as kids. Like we were at
Yes.
summer camp. No one had a phone. You weren't on your phone, like
Yeah.
texting or doing things. Like literally people were just there in the moment talking to each other because you couldn't be on your phone. So I
Yeah.
had several people comment, be like, okay, not only is the vibe great because we're all at camp and like we're all these just people who are excited to be out here and you can't use your phone. So we're all being
Yep.
like very present. And so it was kind of this weird, magical, almost accident uh of the environment that I don't know. Hopefully you
Yeah.
look
What does
back.
Chris call it? Serendipity. Anyway.
Serendipid. Yeah, no. I was just gonna say it was probably type 2 fun, like not fun in
Yeah.
the moment, but looking back, I think it was kind of like super special, and I hope
That
people
was the other thing
think
about the
fondly.
show itself, Sportscar Vacationland is, if we were wanting to maximize our social media footprint and have, we would probably offer Wi-Fi so that people could have been posting
posting in real
stories in real
time,
time. But
and
a
wouldn't have
lot
made
of
it so far
people,
out.
yeah, but a lot of
But
people had their phones put away and they were present, and it was very cool that way.
yeah, 100%. So I think takeaway is, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. And most of all, it was so cool to see the community come out in every aspect of it, right? From all the help we had, all the unique exhibits, and
Yeah,
just out of creative ideas. So huge thanks to everyone that came
yeah.
out and made it happen.
Thank. There's so many people. We didn't, there was even other things like the driving while friends exhibit, and there was other
That's
things
right.
that Joshy put time
Yeah.
in. There's so many people put so much time into so many facets of the show that it's hard to even remember or thank everyone. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
So here's one. We'll leave it at this because everyone, of course, is going to ask. All right. So same time next year. Are you doing it again? Is it going to be different? And Stephanie on our team came up with the best analogy. She goes, "You're literally in labor here. We're laboring very hard, and you never ask a woman in labor if she wants to have another kid, right?" And so I think
Yes.
we're still coming out of like laboring with this thing.
Yeah.
And so we don't know. We're still kind of in reflection. We love that it happened, and I think a lot of people would love to see it happen again. So we'll just have to stay tuned and I guess see what happens.
That's that's the thing about Overcrest. You are rewarded for going to the 1.0 because we've done many things that we don't do at 2.0.
Mhm.
And if you're willing to make the sacrifice to be there, you may get to be at something that doesn't happen again. And who knows? We'll figure out something fun to do.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Can't have idle hands. Couldn't
No,
have that. All right,
no,
guys, thank you so much for joining us. Check us out, social media, of course. If you haven't seen some of the stuff we're talking about, it's really cool. I'm even like surprised seeing like, oh, I didn't even get to see that, or I didn't check it out. So, of course, also shout out to Drivers Club members. Head over to overcustproductions.com/Drivers Club to join for as little as $5 a month. All right, with that, we will see you guys next week. I'm sure Chris will be back here, hopefully not coughing up a lung and half of California's dust. And we'll be talking about who knows what. All right, guys, take care.
take care.